welcome back to the channel. See, I've got a Sears Kenmore made in Japan 158-1946 free arm sewing machine here. I've just gone through the machine and I thought I'd just do a quick demonstration of some of the features of the machine. And I just have a bobbin here I'm going to wind up, but I'm just quickly going to get that wound up and then I'll show you the different stitches this machine will make. I have the bobbin wound and in the machine. I've got the machine threaded up. What I'm using for this demonstration is a size 14 needle and a Tex 40 thread, which is basically just a dual duty Coates and Clark type dual duty thread. The configuration now on the machine is just a simple straight stitch. I've got it set on the orange dot up here that indicates a straight stitch. Orange dot here. If you alter this dial, that is your zigzag width right here. 4 back to straight stitch. This dial is simply the stitch length, 6. And then when you get into this orange area here, that would be like if you're doing a buttonhole. Otherwise you're going to have very, very small short stitches. And this is the reverse lever. Obviously over here is the thumb screw that you loosen when you wind your bobbin. The way you wind your bobbin, you loosen this thumb screw. Get your bobbin on here with the thread inserted through one of the holes and just click it over, run the machine until you get as much thread as you want on there. I generally never fill the bobbins full, so I just manually disengage that. Over here on this side, this little button right here, some of these are numbered. This one is, it's 1 through 4. This is the amount of pressure to the presser foot. Usually on a light cotton, this is just 2 layers of light cotton fabric. I'm just going to press that down to the number 2. You don't need an excessive amount of pressure on this foot unless you're doing something like light leather or something where as the needle comes out of the material it's going to want to lift the fabric right off the bed of the table here. Then you would want more pressure on that foot, but just for regular sewing, that's plenty of pressure. And I've got my bobbin tension set, and I've got the upper thread tension on this machine right now is set at about 4.5. And then as far as the stitches, I do have a piece of paper here that's showing me the proper names for these stitches. We'll just go through the dial quickly. It will do a straight stretch stitch, smocking stretch. I also saw this one called a honeycomb. This one is called the overcast or elastic edge stretch. This one here, I believe I'm just going to call that shell stitch. This one's simple. This is the triple zigzag. And then back to the straight stitch. So that's the different options you have. You have several different stretch stitches, and then you have your basic straight stitch and zigzag. Basic zigzag and basic straight stitch. And then the other thing this has on the dial here, it has this F. It's got an F and an R, and I've determined that the F is when you're doing a buttonhole. You set this on the orange area here and go to about a 2, a little bit over a 2, not quite 2.5. And put this on F, and that way when you're doing the left hand side of the buttonhole, this will do your little zigzag stitch, and then you have to just terminate that, put it back to R. It'll move over to the right hand side, run in reverse, and do the other side of your buttonhole. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I'll probably zoom in on this area here and just without talking, because I'll have to talk over the machine. I'll just go ahead and run some of the different stitches. And I did take the bulb out so that the lighting wouldn't be off on the table here. I'm just going to go ahead and start out with a basic straight stitch here. I've got the orange dot positioned on the top dial here, the orange dot right here, so there's no zigzag. I'm on the standard orange dot on this dial, and I'm just going to set the stitch length to a number 8. This is an all metal machine. There's no plastic gears in this machine. Now I'm going to just remove the needle from the work and switch this to just a basic zigzag. I'm going to go to the number 4, the widest zigzag I can do, and I'm going to shorten the stitch length just so I don't travel across the fabric too quickly here. Generally I've found, let me run a few stitches here. Okay, I'm just going to look at this quickly. Generally, I've found that when you do a zigzag on this light fabric, you need to do a little bit more upper tension to pull the, you don't want to go overboard or you will pucker the fabric, you'll pull it together, but you want to go just enough so you get that back, the stitch on the back looking good. And just a little bit over the 5 here, and that's going to vary with every machine a little bit, so the best thing to do is just run a little bit of your stitch and take a look at the back, and I'm going to say that that's about as good as I'm going to get the back to match the front. I don't think I'll get, because this is a quite a light fabric. On a heavier fabric, just with all the testing I've done on the different machines, you could go a little bit more upper tension and it won't pull the fabric together on a heavier fabric. Alright, now I'm going to just turn this way and I will go to the, I like to have the needle out of the work when I switch these dials. This has a metal internal cam stack located about in this position under the top of the machine, and then there's an indicator that just follows the different cams depending on where you set the stitch that you want. So on this one I'm going to just go back to straight stitch. This is the, let me look at the straight stretch, I believe, and I'm going to go to number 6. And go ahead and run the machine. This one you'll hear a little bit more mechanism working inside the machine because it is working the fabric back and forth as it makes this stitch. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the honeycomb. I found that I go all the way to the 4 on the width, and I'm doing about 11 on the stitch length. And what else? I think that's it. Okay, let's turn that around. And I'm gonna go ahead and just show you what's happened so far here. That's what we're getting so far on what stitches I've done. That's the back and the front. And let's just continue on here. I won't even bother cutting that thread. I'm just gonna reposition here. Okay, and now I'm going to go to the, let's see, what do we call this one? Overcast or elastic edge stitch, and I'm going to, I think I'm going to stick with the settings. Change this to this other stitch, leave this on 4, and leave this on 11. Okay, and now I'm going to go to, turn the dial to the shell stitch, it's called. I'll leave the other settings the same. And then I'm going to, well, I'm going to run it ahead a little bit. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to the 3-point zigzag. And that's, I just turned the dial to the 3-point zigzag up here. You probably can't see it, but I showed it to you earlier. This will leave on a 4, this will leave on 11. And here we go. Oops. I've got to, okay, let me tell you what happened there. Sometimes when you change the stitches, it will have to make part of a rotation before it will be on the other cam. So that's what just happened there. It went up and down once or twice, and then it was lined up on the other cam for the 3-point zigzag. I'm going to shorten that even more. Alright, let's take a quick look at all the stitches, because with that being flat on the table, you're probably not seeing those very well. There's what we've done so far. That's the 3, right by my thumb, here's the 3-point zigzag, that's the front, that's the back. And then I think the only other thing I need to demonstrate on this will be the buttonhole settings. For the buttonhole, I've got it on the orange dot on the top dial. I've put it on the number 2 on the zigzag width, and I've got it on the F. And then on the stitch length, I've got it about in the middle of the orange area on this dial. And let's see if this works. Okay, I might have went a little bit too wide on the stitch width. Okay, now I'm going to just bring the needle out of the work and go to the R and see if I did this right. Yeah, I think I went too wide on that width because the stitches are pretty much crossing over. I didn't practice this at all. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. So I'm going to go a little bit narrower, like a 1.5, and leave everything else the same. Oh no, I have to go to forward. Okay, I think this is going to be, this is probably going to work now. Okay, I'm realizing now when you do this, kind of learning as I go here, when you look at where the needle is coming into the fabric and the middle of the foot here, when you're doing this side, you want to make sure your needle isn't coming over any further than the middle of the foot. And then when I switch to reverse, let's see what happens. Yeah, that's way better. Now it's jumped over to the right side of the foot. And I know just enough about the buttonhole that I know that I have to terminate it at the end. So I'm just going to go to, that's a 1.5, so simple math, I'll do a 3 and hopefully it doesn't move. Okay, so that worked way better. Much better, I'll show you here. This is what I ended up with a buttonhole on that last try. And that way you can just rip your material there and you're good to go. Okay, and that's the whole test of this machine. Like I say, I've gone through the machine. It's a free arm. And let me show you what's going to come with this machine. I've got it sitting right here off to the side. Here's everything that's going to come with this Kenmore sewing machine. You'll get the original buttonhole or attachment with the directions. You'll get the 2 Kenmore screwdrivers, these size 14 needles. This is very important when you get one of these machines. This is the like the needle plate, I would call it, on a industrial machine. And what this has just the single hole for when you do a straight stitch, and also the correct foot here. So when you're doing like a stretchy light fabric, if you're using the oval shaped hole, the zigzag, sometimes the needle will just push that right through there on you and just make a mess. So it's important to have this. It's very simple to put in and out. You just push it in and it clips in and you're done. And then there's also a roller foot comes with this. This does not look like a Kenmore branded item, but it was with the machine. And then another zigzag foot. Not sure what that one is. I thought it was like for buttonholes, but I'm not positive about that. And then you'll get class 15 bobbins, and I took the light bulb out just so when I made the video it wasn't getting too bright on the bed of the machine there. And yeah, you saw the machine run, hopefully you heard it run. It's a really smooth machine, quiet machine. And they have a lot of power. This has a 1-amp motor, and yeah, it's just a good all-around machine just for basic sewing. So appreciate you watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one. See ya.